So I don't know, a lot of people know, but there's also a version of Midnight Rider on Greg Allman's solo album. I think his first solo album called Laid Back. Might have been his second album. I think it was his first one. But it's a little different, a little more laid back, swampier.
Which one happened first?
Kind of leans toward the minor. And I'm not sure which happened first. I thought it was his, but I could be wrong about that. I have to look up the timing on them. But anybody that is a fan of the Allman Brothers, and especially fans of the song, should probably check it out, because I mean, it's a super, super popular song that you hear a ton. And you probably heard them both and maybe just not realize that there's two completely different versions out there. Or you may have heard them both, you know.
I don't know that I had actively listened to his single one. I think the one that has like all the harmonies on it is the most popular. I mean, the Allman Brothers.
It's a little more upbeat, and the Allman Brothers has definitely got a little, southern. It's got the more southern rock flair, whereas the Greg Allman has more of a swamp vibe to it. I tend to actually like it more, but I don't know that maybe it's just because it's newer. And we kind of lean more towards the Allman Brothers version, and that one seems. I think his solo version is a little like swampier, like I said, slower, leans more toward the minor, lasts a little bit longer, jazzier too, has a little more jazzier influence.
It's a good listen.
Yeah. I like it a lot. I mean, but I'm not sure if it's just because I'm, kind of burnt out on the other one from being on the radio so much. Or not.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things, like, it kind of gives it a bit of a new life without departing too much from the one we're more familiar with.
Yeah.
So, like, let me ask you about this. So, we talk a lot about the stories we tell ourselves about songs. Mm-hmm. So in this one, the story that I tell myself, this dude is definitely on a horse. Mm-hmm. Is he on a horse for you too? Like he's riding a horse, not like
rider.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I think that that lick, that repeating lick, the da na 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 na.
It's kind of like a horse galloping.
It feels like that's what it feels like to me.
There's two ways that I've looked at this song in the past. One would be like hopping a train. Mm-hmm. The other would be riding a horse. Yeah. And either way, I think that.
Or if it's more modern, it could be hitchhiking.
I think that the music works so either way because you have the of the train,
right?
Or you have the it's like
it's movement.
It's like a musical approximation of either
movement. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. And I wanted to know if you had kind of told yourself that same story about the movement through the musical.
It's weird how like certain words and certain phrases can like paint a picture for a lot of people that you don't even realize that it's being painted or why. Like it doesn't come out and like say, oh, he's a cowboy.
Well, okay. But here's the other question. Why in your story is he riding? Obviously he's running because he's not going to let somebody catch him.
So and so in my, like, I kind of like picture it a lot like some of the other songs we've done, like he's a gambler or he's like hard on his luck or he's maybe not the most honest person, so somebody's after him. And I definitely place it like as a Western type of song and what cues that for me for whatever reason is Silver Dollar. I got one more Silver Dollar.
Yeah.
So it kind of harkens back to a time where silver dollars were more favorable than one more paper dollar.
Well, the silver dollar was in circulation. Like that's not even a thing. You have to go hunting for the silver dollar.
Exactly. Now. Especially now, but even probably you could probably get them a little more readily, in the 50s and 60s. But for some reason, I think it makes you feel even back prior to that, Right.
Well, I've got a whole backstory that he doesn't even allude to, not even a little bit there. Like I've got this he was up in like the New York area and he was in with these people who do like street fights, where they do like the boxing matches or whatever. Yeah. And he was a fighter and either he was supposed to throw a fight or he threw a fight that people weren't happy that he was throwing. And so these people who lost a lot of money betting on him to win, they're chasing him. So not only did he get beat up, What
So
they're
you got like a
chasing.
whole made up
I got
story
a
that doesn't even have
whole
anything to do with
No,
the song.
and then he's like riding off into like an unknown place because I have him going from a heavily populated place out into a wilderness where he's like sharing a bed with his horse. Like that's where I don't have him like some will bet also be sharing. I don't necessarily think that's a person. You know, he's going to he's maybe with a bear in a cave. You know,
I thought that he was writing the story to like a significant person in his life, and that he's telling them to come back. You know, like, hey, I'm not gonna let him catch me.
Really?
I mean, like the same little bed I'll soon be sharing. You know, I'm not
so
sure
your
if it's
guy
the same
wasn't
or
a
some,
boxer.
but like no, like he's like telling her I'm gonna be home. You
Okay,
know? Like,
but wouldn't they catch him at home?
No.
Okay. I mean, we can make
in those
up our
days
own
there weren't
stories,
phone books.
Yeah.
You know,
Were there phones?
Nobody knew where they were living. You know,
I mean, maybe, yeah.
You didn't know where they were going.
It depends on like how tenacious the people who are chasing him are.
For sure. You know,
He seems pretty confident though that he will get away.
Yeah, it's weird though. Like, you know, in the catalog of Southern Rock and Allman Brothers band songs, like just thinking of the song, it's like very much like their two biggest hits were probably the ones that stuck most to like a country Southern rock flavor. You know, I would say this, and then Ramblin' Man was probably the next biggest hit. You know, Lord, I was born a Ramblin' Man. Mm-hmm. You know, and
well, that song has movement in it too. It has
a lot of movement in it, and but I think it's interesting that, you know, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, they did a lot of blues, jazz influenced blues, and you know, probably pioneered a lot of the jam band genre. You know, and were definitely, I think, you know, in their era, along with Little Feat and the Grateful Dead, they were probably the greatest American pioneers of their time.
Well, they're definitely the precursor to bands that we have now that were our literal descendants. Because you look at Tedeschi Trucks Band, and
for sure,
Butch Trucks' son. You know, so
and the music lives on today. Like they play those a lot of those songs, and people are very much pleased with what they hear. You know,
sure,
they speak to a wide audience, and I think it goes to what you say sometimes about like having people be able to relate in a lot of different ways, but maybe not like just like any one particular story. Like if he came out and said, oh, you know, he was a boxer that threw a fight, this is the thing, well, it might be a good story song, it would maybe be less relatable to a lot of people.
To most people, exactly.
Because like, I mean, you could apply this song a lot of different ways, you know.
I mean, he could be a schizophrenic, and there's not actually people after him.
Right, you could just be up late at night, and like that could be the Midnight Rider. You know, you're not gonna let him catch me. I'm not gonna let my own demons catch me.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna be like, you know, it could be a lot of different things that you could apply it to in your own. You know, that's why songs and music's so great. I think, you know.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, because you can find it relatable, even if it's not. You can still, even if you know it's not, and you know the whole story, you can still take lines out of songs and make them relatable to yourself. Right. Which I think is, you know, very powerful.
Well, you have to do that through active listening, though. If it's a passive thing that you've got going on in the background, you don't absorb it the same way, I think.
No, of course not. You know, and everybody hangs on to what they hang on to. You know, sometimes people like the rhythm, sometimes people like the music, the soloing, the lyrics, the voice of the person. Sometimes they don't even like that. Sometimes they just like the way the singer looks.
Sometimes people like me purchase CDs and records just based on the artwork that's on the outside.
Absolutely.
We were talking yesterday just among ourselves about packaging and how I'm a dead sucker for packaging.
Well, I mean, you can look at things like even like this microphone. You know, it has modern technology, but they make it look like an old microphone. It's attractive.
Something a little retro.
You know? And even though it's an expensive microphone, it looks really nice. You know, and people desire it because they're like, oh, that looks like other things that give me a certain feeling.
Well, there's things also too that of a tactile nature. So, for instance, my mug. I love this mug because it feels good, even without anything in it. It's got a nice weight to it. I can put my whole hand in the handle. Like I like the feel of the little berries on here, and also it absorbs the heat really well, so it's a little nice. I tend to think that
pottery mugs are superior to most other types of mugs.
Well, I also like knowing that there is a person, an artist, who sat down and their focus was on making this thing, and now I'm enjoying their art in a practical way.
Well, if you believe in the transference of like energies in any kind of way, then that makes a lot more sense than a machine.
Right.
pressing out mugs.
Right.
Although I gotta say that I do like my two favorite mugs to drink from are pottery mugs and camp style mugs.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like something about
I think the handle has a lot to do with it because you want to be able to.
Well, it's funny because it's similar though, right? Because it's enamel over steel, which is in a lot of ways similar to a pottery type of thing.
Oh, on another note, like this is slightly related. I found this woman online. She makes mugs, but for people who have specific disabilities. So she'll make a mug like this, but it'll also have another handle on this side for people who have something that gives them shakes. So it's easy for them to manage their beverage without spilling. Or she'll make one that has an extra little thumb bit here that comes up so that you have a little more grip on it, or a small one where you can put your thumb in. Like she's got all these different ones, and I thought, what a beautiful way to use art to help other people. It was really kind of moving to watch her talk about it.
Right? Because isn't that why most artists, a lot of artists, I think, especially musicians, like you make your art because you want to see it influence other people. I think, or maybe not all artists. Maybe a lot of artists are selfish. I don't know, but like,
you know what? Even being selfish though, like even if you say I'm writing this song because it helps my soul in this moment, you know that you're not alone in your feelings. Like there's no unique feeling. If you feel sad, there is someone in this world of over 7 billion people who is also feeling. I mean, the exact same within the same parameters of sad that you're existing in.
Music is one of the things that can transcend just about any type of human emotion. And it can take you places, and it can heal. And I believe it can heal not only emotional but physically. I think the energy
emotions
that's
are
carried,
attached to your physical self.
The emotion and the I just really believe that music has healing powers beyond what we even can comprehend at this time.
Right.
And I think, a lot of that probably has to do with the people that I grew up listening to, and that, like Santana, he makes his music a spiritual experience,
Right.
But it's like, isn't like a lot of times, in people's religions or whatever, you are healed through the spiritual a lot of times, so it would just make sense if other, that a lot of times when there's like commonality in all the beliefs of the world, there is some commonality to feelings that people have amongst themselves, and it can be, just different people experiencing the same thing in different ways, I guess,
Yeah.
So I just think that it's really powerful, and I feel really blessed to be a part of it.
It is. And I'll say this from a personal standpoint and be a little vulnerable with everybody. I woke up with a bit of a head cold this morning and just feel kind of a little cranky and a little like just my headspace is a little fuzzy, and I've got some sinus stuff going on, and like really waking up with that kind of meh feeling in my body, it has led to like a little bit of crankiness, which I know you've experienced. But even just doing the shadow, which has nothing to do with healing, or like the lyrical content of it has nothing to do with feeling good, but making music with you, regardless of the lyrical content, makes me feel better. And talking to you about music and how you feel about songs and whatnot, like just this conversation, it helps heal my headspace, even though my physical is, I'm not 100%, you know what I mean? Like it's still helpful to me.
And also I think the also with the healing ability of music and the the ability to affect people's moods, I think a lot of that it's a lot like Spider-Man, like with great power comes great responsibility,
I mean, that's an old adage. It's not just
of course.
You're
right, but I mean, it was like
Uncle Ben. He did lay that down in a pretty firm way.
I mean, pretty much. I think I quoted him.
Well, true
But and I think that I would never want to take it too lightly. I think that it can be taken very lightly,
Especially if you got other things going on and your little hamster wheel in your mind, because, I mean, we've got everyday lives going on. I got to go figure out what are we going to do for a meal? What's the next meal? Or what do I need to wear to our event this evening? Or, there's a lot of just regular life stuff that goes on in everybody's head. And I think it's kind of like meditation. If you make room for that space in your mind and in your body for music or for meditation, for your just to be in the moment with your breath. Like, there's something to that really just helps recenter, I think. And I think music helps you get to that space where you can do those other things like meditation and just like consciously recentering.
I think it's like we recognize that it's super powerful subconsciously, and sometimes we don't stop and think about how powerful it is. Like, can you imagine, like, think of the effect that music has on storytelling. Can you imagine watching television or a movie with no music in it?
No music, yeah.
Like, it adds a feeling of tension.
When I was a teenager, I actually did that. I would watch scary movies with the sound off because it was too scary for me with the sound on.
But with the sound off, like, you can watch the pictures and it doesn't affect you the same.
Subtitles up, and you can understand the storyline.
It's weird. Like, you can understand the storyline and you're not emotionally invested. I think, like, I've literally watched movies that way too, and you're kind of just like, oh, well, what's going to happen next, out of curiosity. But the funny thing is, you could probably listen to the soundtrack and feel the way that the composer wanted you to feel without ever seeing the picture.
Or also with no dialogue.
Right.
You probably get the feeling that they want exactly. Yeah.
You'd be scared when you're supposed to be scared.
Yeah.
You'd be happy when you're supposed to be happy.
I saw this meme somebody put up on Facebook. I laughed at it because it said, I don't understand how people still get attacked by sharks. Can't they hear the music? It's like, but it's so iconic. Well, you think about, Jaws. That is an iconic piece of music. Or Darth Vader. He has his own iconic piece of music that it makes you, if you grew up watching those movies,
powerful.
It makes you feel a certain kind of way. It doesn't matter if it's in the context of that film.
And it's not even necessarily the association with him that you form later on with that music, which makes it even stronger because you're forming a bond with the character or with the person based on music. But also, like, if you can even remember the very first time you hear it, or you hear the music independently and you evaluate it, it sounds strong, it sounds powerful. Yeah. It sounds intimidating.
Well, so if somebody were to put, for instance, Darth Vader's theme music alongside, and I'm not going to be political, but any political figure out in the world today, you would understand that they were trying to say that this person is a villain. They might have a tiny bit of goodness in them that makes them electable, but this person is a villain.
But they're also a powerful villain.
A powerful villain. Without any other context, they could give a political leader from a different country that I'm completely unfamiliar with, and I will know the message they're trying to convey based on our collective understanding of that piece of music.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Right? And it's weird that we...
Don't do that. Let's not be mean to people.
It's weird that with all the languages out there that people experience musically so almost universally the same,
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Hey friends! Ashley of Sugar Lime Blue here. I wanted to draw your attention to something we've started doing on our Facebook. We've been featuring one of our special Sugar Lime Blue tie-dye t-shirts weekly. Here's an example of one of them. You guys seem to be enjoying this, so we're going to keep it up for a little while. So make sure you're looking for us on Facebook with our special weekly Sugar Lime Blue tie-dye t-shirts.